If your handwriting on iPad looks messy, it's probably not actually your handwriting, and it's easy to give up and go back to typing. A few small adjustments can make writing on iPad feel surprisingly natural. I'm going to share the things that actually made the biggest difference for me. A paper texture protector makes your iPad feel more like writing on paper, and it even gives you that ASMR pencil and paper experience. The screen gets slightly less crisp, but I got used to that trade-off pretty quickly for the improvement in writing. I've used the brands Paperlike and more recently Move. There are also a lot of other budget-friendly options out there now. And while you're at it, sometimes I swap out my Apple Pencil tips for something thinner or softer. It's a bit like switching between a wooden pencil and a mechanical pencil, just a slightly different feel. If there's one setting I tell every iPad user to turn on, it's Scribble. Go to Settings, Apple Pencil, Scribble, and make sure it's turned on. It lets you write directly into any text field on your iPad. Search bars, notes, reminders, everything. You're not doing anything extra, you're just using your iPad normally. And over time, you start getting more comfortable writing everywhere on your iPad. And once you're used to it, reaching for the keyboard starts to feel like the slower option. If your pen strokes feel inconsistent, no matter how carefully you try to write, the pen type might be working against you. Inside GoodNotes, the pen you choose matters more than most people realize. The fountain pen and brush pen are great, but they can feel a bit unpredictable at first because of pressure variation. If you're still getting used to writing digitally, start with the ball pen. It's the most predictable option, no pressure variation, no flare, just consistent pen strokes. That's what I use for everyday notes and general writing. And there are also a few useful pen gestures worth knowing, like scribble to erase shapes and highlighter, and circle to lasso. As you get more comfortable, you might naturally move towards the fountain pen, as it gives your writing a bit more character. I like using it for slower writing, like journaling, where I can take my time and let the pen strokes feel more personal. With the fountain pen, you'll also notice that tip sharpness, pressure sensitivity, and stroke stabilization all affect how your writing feels. Tip sharpness controls how sharp or soft strokes appear. Pressure sensitivity determines how much thickness varies with pressure. Stroke stabilization smooths out any wobbles. A lower setting feels more natural, while a higher setting feels more controlled but delayed. It's worth experimenting until it feels right for your handwriting style. One thing to note about the fountain pen specifically is the tip flatness. I find that a more rounded tip tends to feel the most controlled and gives you some of that natural variation without feeling unpredictable. I normally use the brush pen just for headings, rather than body text. It's a bit like using a calligraphy pen, which is beautiful in the right context if you're confident with it, but I find it much harder to sustain across a full page of notes. You can also turn on Adjust Thickness by Speed, which adds a nice bit of variation when you write faster. I used the thinnest setting for way too long before I realized it was actually making my handwriting harder to control. A slightly thicker pen gives you more room for natural variation, and it just feels more stable on the page. GoodNotes gives you 3 preset slots, which makes it easy to switch between different pen thicknesses depending on what you're writing. And if you want more flexibility, you can save custom pen presets as palette shortcuts. One small change I didn't expect to matter was switching from pure black ink to a very dark grey. I find dark grey feels softer and more like ink on paper. And you might not know this, but the pen toolbar doesn't have to stay at the top of the screen. Press and hold to reposition it to the left, right, or bottom, whichever feels most natural for how you use your iPad. Building a color palette you actually enjoy using makes a bigger difference than people think. Just like physical stationery, your pen colors, your highlighters, and the combination of them on the page all matter. And one of the coolest things about digital note-taking, you can switch between writing on dark templates with soft muted colors or light templates with 1 or 2 colors that feel more traditional. For everyday notes or work, 2 or 3 colors is enough. It's when you have more time for journaling or working in a digital planner that you might want to play with more. There's no right answer, but when your color palette feels personalized, you're really more likely to open the app and enjoy the writing experience. I naturally write quite small on paper. I think it's because I spent years trying to make notebook pages last longer. But on the iPad, that habit doesn't translate well. Write bigger than you think you need to, because tiny handwriting is hard to keep neat on any surface. If you don't want to use a ruler to underline something, go into the pen settings, find Draw and Hold, and make sure it's turned on. Hold your pen at the end and it snaps to a straight line automatically. Another thing that surprised me was how much neater my handwriting looked when I switched to capitals. It forced me to slow down and form each letter more deliberately. One of the nice things about digital note-taking is that you can zoom into the page and write a bit larger. And when you zoom back out, your notes will still look proportional and neat. And if writing on a completely blank page isn't your thing, try switching to a template with faint dots, a light grid, or even lines. It gives you just enough structure to keep your writing aligned without feeling restricted to one type of paper. Finally, if writing bigger still isn't helping, try zooming into the page first and writing at whatever size feels comfortable. Then use the lasso tool to select what you've written and resize it afterwards. Or if your writing is still drifting, the Edit Handwriting feature can straighten it, align it left, center, or right, and even let you drag words onto the next line or pull them back up again. This is probably one of my favorite GoodNotes features, and it creates a magnified writing area at the bottom of your screen, which you can resize and reposition depending on what feels most comfortable. Your hand rests lower, and your writing appears neatly on the page above. The window automatically moves along as you write, so you can focus on one line at a time. It really helps you concentrate on forming letters properly instead of managing the whole page at once. It's especially useful when you want neater writing or when you're annotating something but still want to see the full page for context. You can also adjust palm rejection and your writing position in the stylus settings. I don't think I would have stuck with digital notes for as long as I have without this feature. There are a few useful gestures that make a big difference once they become second nature. The first is the double tap undo gesture. 2 fingers tap twice, and your last stroke disappears. If you prefer, you can also enable the 3-finger swipe undo in the iPad multitasking settings. When it comes to erasing, it's worth understanding the different eraser types. The precision eraser is for small detail work. The standard one is for general everyday use. And stroke, which is the fastest, removes an entire stroke in one touch. And in the settings, it's worth turning on Auto Deselect if you want to switch back to your pen automatically the moment you lift the pencil after erasing. There's also a feature that lets you delete specific text or elements from your page without using the eraser or lasso tool. And if your pencil supports it, you can set the double tap gesture to switch tools instantly. At this point, you've got the right surface, the right pen setup, and a few tools that make writing easier. The next thing is simply giving yourself opportunities to use them. I don't think you need to do intense handwriting drills to improve, unless you actually enjoy them. What helped me more was just using my Apple Pencil for small things throughout the day. I started writing short journal entries, brainstorming ideas in free form, and annotating something instead of retyping a note. You'll slowly notice your handwriting improving without really thinking about it in those moments. One thing that helped me a lot during studying, especially when lectures moved really fast, was rewriting my notes afterwards. It felt a bit slower at first, but I remembered the information so much better. That's the part no one really talks about. It's not just about how your notes look, it's about what happens when you slow down enough to write it again. If your handwriting just isn't cooperating, you're short on time, or you're just tired and need to clean up your notes, there's a really helpful feature. Use the lasso tool to select your messy handwriting and convert it into typed text. It's surprisingly accurate once your writing is even slightly consistent. You can edit it in the pop-up, then replace your handwriting, or copy and paste it somewhere else. I used to think it had to be one or the other, but you really don't have to choose. You can write in a way that feels natural in the moment, and then quickly clean it up afterwards if you need to share it or organize it. Before you go looking for the perfect note-taking app, there isn't just one. Personally, I prefer GoodNotes for handwriting tools, customization options, and flexible page layouts that feel more like a notebook. I use Apple Notes when I want to quickly write or type something, or keep reference information handy. And for brainstorming or planning projects, I usually go with the Freeform app. Try a couple of apps out because at the end of the day, the best setup is the one you're actually going to keep coming back to. And part of finding that setup is making it feel personal. If you like the look of handwritten notes but want a quick fix, handwriting style fonts are a nice option. There are plenty of free ones you can install on iPad, and combined with Scribble, typed text can still feel personal and a little handmade. When I use my digital planner, this is especially fun. And as you get more confident, you can start finding other ways to make your notes feel more personalized. Simple things like stylized headings. There's a shadow effect you can create in just a few seconds, and it gives your notes a finished and polished feel. You can even turn your own handwriting into a font for free. Those are the things that actually helped me. You don't need perfect handwriting to get there. You just need a setup that makes you want to keep writing. And I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye!